Hey, it's Feven Gerezgiher here with MPR News and Carbon Sound. Today is the first official day of cannabis being legalized in Minnesota. We're in downtown Minneapolis, outside First Avenue, where there's a celebration of marijuana. There's a concert, there are food vendors, and we're going to talk to people about what today means to them. Today's the official first day of legalization of cannabis in Minnesota. Does that mean anything to you?
It's a little late coming because my mother, who yelled at me when I got busted with some roaches, she had plants going in Michigan there a couple of years ago. So,
Are you celebrating today? Like, what's your mood?
I'm happy. I'm loving it. I mean, there's a guy with a plant right there, like walking around like it's a. I was just saying we should be able to register plants as therapy creatures, like dogs and cats. I can take it on the bus with me, let it meet other plants at the park, crossbreed and stuff.
What brings you here to First Ave?
So I'm actually here with the Cannabis Media Council with our PSA called I'm High Right Now.
What do you see as like the significance of having more positive messaging around cannabis and having it be legalized more broadly?
Good question. I think the importance is, we've had over 100 years of propaganda around a plant. It's literally a plant. So I think the positive messaging, the fact that, we're doing design right now with florals, things that feel approachable, things that aren't intimidating, having people like all of us who break this stoner stereotype because, everybody who enjoys cannabis, it's such a broad range and you're still productive, you're still, you're not a basement dwelling monster, you're not like lazy doing nothing.
What brings you here today?
The weed.
What does it mean to you that cannabis is legal in Minnesota now?
I feel like we're behind on everything. They should have legalized it a long time ago, not just for like recreational use, but for people that have like medical conditions and things like that have cancer and stuff. I had some friends who had cancer and they weren't able to like enjoy eating and things like that because we didn't have it legalized here. So that more medical side for me. Maybe it's like the opening gate to like us having clubs and other things and just more acceptance,
So we're going around today talking to people about what cannabis legalization in Minnesota means to them.
Right.
What does it mean to you?
Well, a lot of people assume that the state auditor has nothing to do with this, but I oversee $60 billion of government activity, most of it at the local level, so cities, counties, townships, just small areas. And when you have something that is good for the ag economy, that lifts the entire economy, especially in rural areas. If you have something that reduces the cost of public safety by reducing incarceration, that's great for local government. If you're able to have things that are regulated and have access to proper banking, that reduces fraud. So there's a million good things about ending prohibition for a local government entity.
For you personally, what does it mean?
Well, I think prohibition is ineffective. But I think personally for me, I also taught middle school. So I think about my students. I think about students of mine that could be unfairly incarcerated, especially when you see the disproportionate impact it has on people of color. It's just wrong. I don't want my students to be in prison for something as silly as a little bit of possession and not have access to the future I know they deserve. So I think about some of my kids. That's who I think about.
Did you know if they were consuming or possessing weed?
Well, I think just statistics. Again, I was a math teacher, so hey, I know the statistics. Chances are somebody was. And we also knew that chances are if they were caught with it, the students at the greatest risk of being treated unfairly were also got the greatest risk of being incarcerated. So if there's a deep unfairness in that prohibition. So when I think about my students, I want them to be treated fairly, and this gets us closer to that. I think this issue affects more people than people believe. I mean, if even the state auditor finds this important, this is a wide-ranging issue. So I think everyone should stop and say, hey, how can we make our communities better?
How has it been for you to be in this space where so many people are celebrating and you got to be on stage at First Avenue?
Well, as you can imagine, as the state auditor, I get a million glamorous opportunities just like this. No, it was just when they said, do you want to speak on stage at First Avenue about cannabis? And it's like, that is not at all what I thought my Tuesday would be like when I was running for this office. But, it's wonderful. And I tell you what I think it deserves a celebration because so many just regular people worked to get this passed. This was not some big, glitzy, big money kind of a thing. This was regular people trying to make their communities better. And that's wonderful to celebrate.
So show us your book. Who gave this to you?
Well, I tell you, this is, the authors are here, and they talk about breaking the glass ceiling, who doesn't love a good pun, but also just the idea of women in this industry. As a woman in an industry that's often dominated by men in finance, I appreciate women breaking into great industries. So I'm really excited to read it.
My name is Valley. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
And what brings you here today?
I came to smoke some weed on the first day that it's legalized in this city. Outside with the homies. See, I smoked weed yesterday, which was illegal. But you feel me, like, I ain't trying to go to jail and shit, you feel me? So now I'm outside smoking weed legally. It's lit.
And what does it mean to you to have cannabis be legal, like, broadly for you?
So, like I said, I was smoking weed yesterday. So, honestly, not a whole lot. But it's cool that they did it for everybody else, you know what I'm saying? The little extra bit of anxiety is gone when you're outside on the sidewalk smoking dope. I got PTSD, that's why I smoke weed. I got real bad PTSD. Yeah. I got cataracts.
Of course. I get it. The BO.
Well, actually, it's flipped.
What's going on here?
There's a table. The table seems to be a common table from the event itself. And I just walked across some people using it for their devices, their bongs, stuff I didn't think people were going to bring. And I was just sort of like, oh, we got a communal table here. I was offered a rip from one of these Puffco devices that I've seen 3 other people carrying. It's like this hunky battery-like vaporizer that it comes with all these cool attachments that make it great for, now that it's legalized, you just carry it out and about. And that's what I was introduced to today. I've done dabs before and stuff, but this is cool. Yeah.
How did it differ from like a dab or other type of consuming?
Well, you don't need a torch, which I see some other people using, but that's less cumbersome equipment. It's nifty, I'll just say that much. It works good. It hits smooth because you're not like burning it and lighting it on fire. Again, like this Puffco company would have been smart to put brand ambassadors here. These people are doing the work for them.
I guess, what has the experience of being here and trying new products and being in community with other cannabis consumers been like for you?
Well, I dig it because we've had these weird laws with the Delta products for a bit. And, you know, especially if you've tried the full-on high-dose thing, you kind of have been craving for that to happen. So, yes, going to this event sounded cool. Marijuana Deathsquads is a favorite band of mine with Serby playing later. I would have just gone for them. Where I used to smoke weed indoors illegally whenever they play because people would just do it given the namesake.
Generally, like, what does it mean to you that cannabis has been legalized in Minnesota and it's official today?
From the idea that now there's police all around and the last thing I need to do is find a place to dip and smoke away from them. Just knowing that we have lovely parks in this state and high taxation dollars, that we have another money crop now that can go to that. Yes, we already have the Delta stuff, but I'm excited just to know that we'll just have another way to pay for our awesome public services and parks and stuff. I mean, Colorado's paved the way. They built so much already just from all the money. So,
is there anything that you hope is next in terms of like investment with that tax money, or just now that this has been legalized, something else?
Admittedly, me personally, not so much probably. I would hope for like lower taxes from other sources, but that might not happen. Better roads, new schools. I mean, I don't have kids and I'm single, but I still like the idea of us building schools with it. So just a better Minnesota from it, and just paving the way for future federal legalization. Heaven forbid we finally get that, because that'll just change a lot all over. Yeah.
What brings you here today?
Well, certainly freedom of the cannabis plant brings me here today. The freedom and the ability to use and openly possess large amounts of cannabis, whether it be in the form of raw marijuana or whether it be in the form of edibles or something you can drink.
And why is that important to you?
It is important to me because almost 9 years ago to the day, we legalized cannabis for medical purposes. For the last 9 years, we've been struggling to really bring some validity to cannabis legalization and to the medical side. So now that full legalization is here, it really should make the patients feel a little bit better and make us feel like it's okay to use our medicine out in the open. I don't know if you've got Oxycontin in your pocket, but that's not for you and I to discuss, but certainly people want to know if I got marijuana with me or not. So today it just feels like a very exciting day to be involved. I've been involved for about 37 years, and so I never thought this day would be here today, so I'm excited to share it with everybody, and thank you for being here.
What has tonight been like for you? Like, what's the vibe? What's been the reception that you've been feeling?
It's no longer, it's no longer that drug that you do on a Friday or Saturday night. It's also that drug that you do on a Tuesday night or on a national night out. My wife and I are very politically active, and she's holding down the fort with National Night Out, and so she's hanging out with the cops and having root beer floats, and I'm smoking weed and hanging out with politicians. We're having a good night. I really think that creating a co-op of some sort or a cooperative for folks that can't grow their own or don't want to grow their own because they might be in some kind of rental housing or some kind of housing that prevents it from happening. I think there needs to be a lot more work on that level.
What brings you here today?
I am down here with my cousin. We're just walking around, watching everybody enjoy, the freedoms of the world. Everything, this should be free. It shouldn't have been a problem with getting it here in the first place. But now that it is, yay.
And what does cannabis legalization in Minnesota mean to you?
Well, hopefully, and this is I guess it's going on the legal side. Hopefully the people that has gotten in trouble, went to jail for things like this, can get lesser time and everything, get that off their record. It also means big business for Minnesota. When they do finally let people start opening up shops and everything, hopefully they could get the money back to the cities, fix the streets, put people in houses or whatever. I just feel like it's a really good thing for the state.
Is there anything that you're hoping comes next, like specifically?
Well, my family, we really want to get into this type of business. And I feel like that black people, for the most part, being the main ones that's in jail for selling it, it shouldn't be that hard for us to get licensing and, funding and things like that. So I'm looking, it's big things happening. I'm looking for the best.
Absolutely. What brings you here today?
Legalization, right? Weed being free in another state. The opportunity to see people of color get a chance to change their, fortune, their trajectory of their family, right? Create legacy. So I'm excited to see another state embrace that, and shout out to Minnesota for being on the right side of history.
Can you share about your business and what y'all are doing here?
Yeah, for sure. So we are actually a cannabis-centric social club. We've kind of matured into like a resource center of sorts, where we really focus on activity-based events and advocacy, education for the consumer in the community, and safe spaces, right? And so today we actually are doing an activation where we brought our Sky Bar. It's like a vape on tap. It's a unique spin on consumption. But that's what we're about, bringing experiences to the community and making sure that, when you enjoying cannabis is a little more than just being in your house on the couch and hanging with your friends. So, yeah, that's what we're about.
And how did y'all get connected with First Ave and Minnesota?
Yeah, shout out to Dutchie. If you guys aren't familiar, you'll probably see them very soon. They are one of the leading POS systems in the nation for cannabis. and they are a partner of ours, right? They came into New York State with the right mindset about helping small businesses, people of color, make a way, and they invited us to be a part of this. And so we're excited to be partners and watching, again, the state, embrace cannabis in the right way.
Absolutely. Have y'all been like working and networking with Minnesota future business people, or kind of like what has that connection been like for you?
Yeah, man, we've only been out here a couple of days, but we've certainly met a bunch of budding cannapreneurs and people that have actually moved regulations. So we met a few people that wrote some law, kicked it with some lobbyists who talked about influencing regs or legislation, and kind of led them into understanding what the next step of regulations is going to look like. We introduced a white paper at home in New York State on on-site consumption, rethinking on-site consumption. And so we've been able to pass that around and get some real feedback on that, and just giving people a perspective about how to look at that license category when it comes about. But I love the creativity that I'm seeing out of Minnesota and the product offerings, and so I'm excited to see what comes.
And if I can ask, like, what does cannabis mean to you? Like, what do you see as its benefit, or like and the pros to it being legalized broadly?
Yeah. For me, it's liberation, right? So again, sometimes people are like, hey, you don't want to put the race lens on everything, but sometimes it matters. And this was something that we can truly look to see that we were set back because of the demonization of the plant. And I think this really represents the opportunity to see ourselves change so much of our lives, from the operations to the consumption, to just being an educated, constituent, right? There's so many benefits to seeing cannabis mature in that way, and for me, that's what it really means. Yeah.
The millions of dollars that are come back into our communities that have been front-loaded through the community reinvestment, that's going to go into this super pro-worker, equity-centered, moving us forward into this regenerative economy.
Well, I first thought of this a little over 20 years ago when I was running, and now, I've been thinking, maybe I need to run for president to legalize it federally. Because if I were the president, there would be no federal cannabis laws. They would be gone. Anyway, on a serious note, it's very, wonderful to see an idea that you ran on back in 1998. And I couldn't get even one legislator to carry a bill. Couldn't get one. But yet here it is, a little over 20 years later. Fortunately for me, I'm still alive, that I get to see a dream that I had come true. So it works. Sometimes it just takes a long, long time for it. But I'm going to brag a little and say this. I think I've done something with cannabis that nobody in this room has ever done. Nobody. And that is this. July 28th, 1970, I smoked cannabis and I saw Jimi Hendrix. I don't think there's anyone here in First Avenue tonight that can say they got stoned on cannabis and saw the greatest guitar player who ever lived. Because 3 shows later, he was gone. He did Seattle, he did the Isle of Wight, and unfortunately, Jimmy left us. But anyway, I couldn't be happier. This is a day prohibition has been lifted. And anytime you lift a prohibition, that is striking a blow for freedom. Because freedom and prohibition are opposites. They're like gas and water, they don't mix. You can't have freedom and have prohibition. So today in Minnesota, we have lifted a prohibition that should have been lifted many, many years ago, but better late than never. I'll finish now and say everybody have a great time, and you can toke up if you'd like.
Thank you so
it up for the governor. Come on, let's give it up. He's got one more thing to say. Hold on.
One last request, though. All I want to tell you is this. In this cannabis business, keep the money in Minnesota. Buy Minnesota grown. Buy Minnesota produced. Buy Minnesota endorsed. Because that's what I'll be doing. I want to be the first high-level elected official in America who endorses cannabis and has the guts to do it. Because it doesn't take any guts anymore. Thank you.